Welcome back. As promised, we're going to discuss the commodity space now. Manisha Gupta joins in with a roundup of all the commodity market action, and she has a guest with her as well. Manisha, over to you.
Thank you so much for that, Sonia. Well, I'm looking at the monsoon and the sowing numbers. Well, the monsoon has revived a bit, but the sowing numbers really continue to lag. The monsoon did take a break for 2 weeks, and that has led to a deficient monsoon in Gujarat by 47%, Haryana 37%, Punjab 47%, and these are important, important key growing areas there. Also, when you look at the sowing itself, well, we're nearly 11% down from the previous year, and you have seen a major lag happen in coarse cereals, including bajra. Oil seeds are strongly down, while Maharashtra sowing area is on the higher side, but MP continues to lag here, and the pulses also is a bit of a casualty, as we've seen in sense of numbers there. As far as cotton goes, the numbers are weak there also, and if you bar sugar out, I think almost everything, the numbers are pretty on the weaker side here. But joining us to get a sense on sowing and seeds as well, we have now Mr. Venkatram Vasantavada. He's MD and CEO, Seedworks International Pvt Ltd. Mr. Vasantavada, hi, thank you so much for joining us. What is your sense on what conspired really when it comes to seeds as a business in last couple of weeks when the monsoons were at a complete halt?
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here. I think the monsoon started well to start with, and then there was an uptick in the sowing, but unfortunately because of the lag in between, there was a lull. And that was the period where, you have read out all the numbers in terms of how the progress has happened. And, there was a little bit of some kind of a distress there at the farmer's end, and most of the seed companies which have actually placed stocks and were looking for a good listing really had to kind of probably, there is still some hope, I would say, because the monsoon has revived. But probably the revival would happen maybe in millets to some extent, because the millet, there is a sowing window which is there at this point of time, and probably a little bit in maize and maybe in pulses, and probably something around rice again, because rice is, of course, there is a longer sowing window for rice. Yeah.
Sure. You've actually named out all the commodities, and I do understand that the sowing window for moong, urad, that is the pulses, and cotton is quite small. Are you looking at those areas lagging?
Yeah, cotton, I think cotton is pretty much would be done largely, by another 10 days or so, because most of the cotton is kind of done except for parts of coastal Andhra and little bit in Karnataka. So cotton would lag. It started actually with the northern markets, where because of, canal-driven irrigation, the cotton sowing took a hit because the canals could not get released in time. And lag continued here because of two things. One is, of course, the seasonal aberrations. But the other thing also I would like to point out, and this was actually pointed out by most of the seed industry associations, the illegal planting of BT has actually affected most of the organized cotton players. That was the second one. And then, of course, the crop shifts which happened. So these are the three key reasons. So I'm really not seeing cotton, coming up in a big way, except for a little bit catching up there. And the Tamil Nadu season is, of course, a little later than that.
Just purely from the seed side of business, how much of sale really has happened until now? I mean, that I'm assuming will give you an idea on what the sowing can look like. And are you expecting more demand going forward?
Yeah, so I think seeds, we have to classify it into two. There are, proprietary seeds or hybrid seeds as we call, and then there are the open pollinated varieties which are selling. So as far as the hybrids and things are concerned, largely excepting millets, where we are still waiting for the season to break in, and hopefully I think there are rains to come in. Most of that, probably 75 to 80% is done. As far as the varietal seeds are concerned, there is still some more scope for that. I think another 15 to 20 days is which would be very, very critical for the sowing to, progress. And probably then we would be kind of done.
Yeah. Mr. Vasantavada, what is the, of the total input cost that the farmer goes through? Seed, I'm assuming, is not so huge, but how much is it and how have the seed prices been?
Seed is actually, very less. It is around 5 to 6% of the overall cost of production of the farmers. But yes, that is the most important thing because, that is what actually, gives an uptick to the production or defense to the diseases and all. So that is how it is. So it is around 5 to 6% max.
And how have been the seed prices been in a year-on-year basis?
Year-on-year basis in terms of your saying pricing or the market growth?
Both.
Well, markets have been, in certain segments, the markets have been growing. I mean, we have to split the seeds into two. One is the cereal crops or the row crops as what we call, and the other is the vegetables. Vegetables have been growing at around, 10 to 12%, whereas the field crops have been growing at a 5 to 6%. Pricing increases, not much except for some inflationary costs which are being absorbed. Yeah.
And with the revival of monsoon, are you looking at demand coming back? And if yes, from what geographies?
Demand would largely now be in what I would say the UPs, the Rajasthan and the eastern part of India, and then, little bit around, southern part. In crops like millets, largely, there would be a lot of paddy sowing, which would also, start catching up, and, probably some bit of a maize here and there.
All right. So some concerns continues in pulses and cotton, but the other crops, as far as the seeds
business... Cotton would be a concern area as far as my estimates go at this point of time, as our industry estimates go, unless Tamil Nadu really reports a huge thing, but of course the acreages are not so significant here.
Point taken. Point taken. Mr. Vasantavada, thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, thanks a lot, Manisha, and thank you, Mr. Vasantavada, for that. So that is the update as far as commodities are concerned. But before we end the show, let's listen into some market opinion coming in from Mohammed El Arian, the Chief Economic Advisor at